Good morning, YouTube. So before I turned on the camera, I'd gone ahead and tinned all these pairs of cells. I think it's easier to tin these beforehand, and what I did then was tinned the positive side and then dropped those tinned cells into the positive holder, which I had completely built here with my terminals and the bus wire, and I have my crimped on terminals there. And then I tinned the negative side and then dropped the negative holder on top there and put in the screws. So now I have a completed module. And then now what I'm going to do is tin the bus wires here. Again, it's hard to get in here. It's a really tight space, and if you're trying to hold your fuse wire and the soldering iron and try to get some solder in here at the same time, there's just no room for that. So I've got my flux pen here, and I just run down, hit all of the bare copper with some flux just so it solders up a little easier. And so this is 12 gauge, which I guess is 3.3 millimeters squared, something like that. And usually the first one here takes a little bit of time. This is pretty heavy wire, and I don't have a really high-powered soldering iron. So yeah, that first one takes a while to get some heat in there. There we go. So you want to do this actually all at the same time, because the more of these that you tin, the more heat you get in the wire, and it gets a little quicker as you go down. And then, like I mentioned in the previous video, there's some heat in the wire right there, because the heat's transferred from this side here over to this wire, even though they're not physically connected. They're two separate wires. But if you keep going here, you can see how that one get a little more heat in there. So there we go. We've got all 10 of these tinned. This is my fuse wire. It's a 30 gauge tinned copper, and because this wire is pre-tinned, and I've pre-tinned the bus wire and I've pre-tinned the cell, now I don't need to get in there with any solder. I can just go over here and I give it a tug just to make sure it's there. And I like to put a bit of a loop on there. Probably you can't even see this wire. I mean, it's really fine gauge. There we go. So I give the wire a tug, make sure it's got a good connection, then you come in, snip it off, and then I just form a little bit of a hook on there. Again, I don't know if you can see that wire there. It's really fine. So this wire burns out someplace between 5 and 10 amps. Like if you short one of these cells, it will burn the wire just right away. Okay, just finished the fuse wires here. Since these fuse wires are so fine, it's really hard to check that you've done things properly. So the reason I do the fuse wires first here is that I can take my voltmeter now, get in the picture. So what I can do is put my positive probe down here in my balance connector, and then I can go down the row of cells here and check the negative terminals, which haven't been hooked up yet, and I'm just checking for the storage voltage. So that's the voltage that were on these cells when I did the storage charge. So roughly 3.7. There's 3.7. But that way I've got 3.7 volts all the way across the line, and now I can come in here with my jumper wire. Yeah, there we go, 18 gauge tin copper. So I've got to do the same thing, tin the bus wire all the way down, and then I start at this end and work all the way back. That way I'm kind of following the heat. So as I tin this way, the heat's moving down here, and then I work my way back. Okay, I've got the bus wire tinned, and I've got my first jumper wire tacked on there onto the bus wire, and then since this is stiffer, you kind of have to form it with a pair of needle nose, and also you can't shove the wire down in there quite so easily, so I wait until I get it in place and then just cut it off so that it will bend down there. And I keep a little bit of spring tension in the wire, so I push it down into the solder there, give it a quick shot, hold it down, and there's one done, and I just work my way down the row. Okay, here's the last connection here. Get soldered down, so there we go. Got one pack all put together. So this finishes up my fourth module here. So okay, YouTube, just finished discharging the last of the 4 packs. It usually takes me 2 days to do the discharge. At least during the winter I can get 2 discharges done every night. I'll start one about 4 in the afternoon. It takes about 5 hours to discharge one of these, and then I can start the other one like 9, 10 o'clock at night and let that run overnight, and then follow up on the second day, because what I'm doing is using the regenerative discharge feature on the iCharger 1010 that I have, and that way I pump the energy out of here into my regular lead acid battery bank overnight. That way I'm not wasting the power. So I wanted to just mention that from the point I tinned the cells and built these modules, the process of using either the used cells or the new cells is pretty much the same. There's no difference at that point. So up until you tab the 2 new cells together, there's kind of a different path that you take, and then it all comes back together. Putting the cells in, adding the bus wire, fuse wire, the jumper wires, and then assembling everything, which I'm doing now. So I've got my 4 threaded rods, and put the spacers, or I guess they call these bushings. So these are the bushings that go in there. So I usually try to get those started, and then once I get them close, I can add my series jumper wire in here. Yeah, there we go. Get that in there. You know, right now I'm building a 4S pack for 16 volts. If I decide to change these over to a 7S battery, about the only thing I need to change out are these threaded rods. Okay, YouTube, got the battery assembled, and I have it plugged in here to the iCharger. So let's see, we're charging at 10 amps, 14.6 volts. But I'm powering the iCharger here off the existing 16 volt battery bank. Yeah, so we're pulling just about 10 amps at 15.37 volts coming in. Once the charge tapers off, I'll unplug it here, and then we'll plug it in over on the existing battery bank. Stay tuned for the next video. I'll show you once this guy finishes charging. We'll take it off here and hook it up on the battery bank. So it might take a couple of days to get this thing charged. And in the meantime, if you have any questions about that, post up in the comment section down below, and I'll put any follow-up videos over here on the left side. And as always, thanks for watching.